Hi, I'm Arun George, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In today's episode, we're talking about a case in Uttar Pradesh where a man and his wife were detained when they were going to officially register their wedding because she had changed her religion. Then, we're looking at what the Supreme Court has said on the protest by farmers along Delhi's borders. But first, we're looking at why a court acquitted 36 foreign nationals who were accused of participating in a COVID 19 super spreader event in Delhi. In March, a national lockdown was declared to slow the spread of the SARS CoV 2 virus.
आज रात 12 बजे से संपूर्ण देश में संपूर्ण लॉकडाउन होने जा रहा है.
But when it was discovered in April that a Sunni Muslim group had congregated in Delhi, seemingly in violation of the norms, there was a lot of outrage. Over 2,000 people from India and other countries like Malaysia and Thailand had gathered at the headquarters of the Tablighi Jamaat group in Delhi's Nizamuddin area. They had gathered there before the lockdown had been declared in March, but were accused of spreading the virus across the country. The event organized by the Tablighi Jamaat was described as a super spreader event for the virus. In the Health Ministry's daily briefings on COVID 19 cases in the country, the number of cases linked to this event was publicized.
अगर हम तबलीगी जमात की घटना को और वो घटना ना हो उसको कंपेयर करें तो हमने देखा है कि जो हमारा डबलिंग रेट यानी कि कितने दिनों में केस डबल होते हैं वह करीब 4.1 है अभी. वो अगर ये घटना नहीं होती और ये एडिशनल केसेस
The outrage against the group for conducting the event even prompted attacks on those who were believed to have attended the events. Minority Affairs Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi called the event a Talibani crime. Among those evacuated from around the group's headquarters in Delhi and surrounding areas were 950 foreign nationals who had attended the event. They were booked under sections of the Epidemic Diseases Act, Disaster Management Act, and Indian Penal Code. While 94% of these foreign nationals, that is 900 of them, chose to take plea bargains and leave the country, 44 chose to face trial. On Wednesday, the court acquitted all those who chose to face trial. We're now speaking with the Indian Express's Anand Mohan, who reported on the trial, about why they were acquitted and what the court said.
The police had stated in court that these foreigners had hidden the fact that there were COVID-related symptoms among their members. The police had eventually linked the Tablighi Jamaat COVID infections to 14 states and had said that this Tablighi Jamaat event was a super spreader. The police case was basically that these foreigners were not wearing masks, they were not maintaining social distancing, they did not use hand sanitizers, and over 2,000 persons had gathered in these premises, despite the fact that the local ACP had communicated a prohibitory order, which is after the Ministry of Home Affairs had come up with certain guidelines after COVID-related cases started to crop up in the country.
The 36 people in this case are foreign nationals who chose to stay back and contest the trial. What happened with the other foreign nationals who were at the event?
So there were over 900 who were detained by the Delhi police. These people had been put in detention centers first. They had stayed there for quite a considerable period of time in different parts of Delhi. Then they were shifted to court-approved centers. What happens in these cases is that they have an option to go for a plea bargain. Now, a plea bargain is something that you can take where you plead guilty. You plead guilty, you pay a nominal fine, and you can go back to your country. Over 900 people had gone for the plea bargain option because they wanted to return to their countries, wanted to go back to their families. And 44 decided to contest this case for various reasons. I spoke to some of the accused, and some of them said that they did not do anything wrong and, that they wanted to contest this case.
Of the 44 foreign nationals who chose to face trial, 8 were discharged before the trial began.
Before the trial began, the court had found in August that there was no prima facie evidence against them. So then the remaining 36 had gone through the complete trial. The Supreme Court had also given a directive to make sure that this trial was fast-tracked and it does not linger on for an indefinite period of time.
After the trial, the court acquitted all 36 accused in the case. But it was also critical of the prosecution's case while acquitting them. We asked Anand about what the court had said in its verdict.
The first thing is that the court found contradictions in various prosecution witnesses. There were over 40 prosecution witnesses, and the court pulled up the police witnesses.
One of those whose testimony the court raised questions over was the station house officer of the Hazrat Nizamuddin police station.
So in his first statement, the SHO told the court that he was kept in the dark about the exact number of people in the markers, and this is what he said. But during his cross-examination, he improved upon his statement, and he said that these people had willfully disobeyed the orders that were given, and they were huddled together and everything. So the court found a contradiction in his statement, saying that either he was kept in the dark and he did not know, or he knew about it. So his statement did not really enthuse the court's confidence. Then there was the investigating officer who the court did not really find much water in his statement, in which he said that he's identified these 900 odd people. And the court was not satisfied with how he identified these people. And the court was of the view that he must have identified these people after a list was prepared by the Ministry of Home Affairs.
The police had also touted the violation of a prohibitory order against large gatherings, which it had issued earlier.
However, the court, when it saw the Delhi police PRO's cross-examination, it found that the PRO had only uploaded this order on the Delhi police website, and the court was of the view that just because you upload an order on the Delhi police website does not mean that you have communicated it to the foreigners. And the court found no iota of evidence that this order was communicated to the foreigners.
During this case, one major fact has also been that all the people who attended this event were said to have knowingly violated the order by the police and authorities to participate in the event. What observations does the court make about this aspect?
No, so the court has found that the prosecution has not led any evidence to show the fact that they have willfully disobeyed these orders. In fact, the police, apart from oral testimonies, which is basically testimonies of its prosecution witnesses, have relied on a register. This is a much touted register, which was, retrieved from the Marcus premises, where it had a complete list of foreigners who stayed at the Marcus during the relevant period of time. And the court has found that this register in itself cannot really be taken as evidence because, one, there is no idea of who's the author, there is no signatures.
The prosecution also argued that 6 members of the group attending the event had died of COVID-19 or complications arising from it. They argued this showed that the people had willfully concealed the cases of infection. However, Anand says that the court questioned its validity because none of the 36 accused in this case had tested positive for the virus or shown any symptoms. Now that they've been acquitted months after almost the campaign, the vilification campaign and the trial itself, how have the defendants reacted to the verdict, and do they still face any legal action potentially?
So the ones who stayed back, the 36, they've had a very harrowing experience, you may call it. At the same time, also, some of them that I've spoken to have also said that they don't have any hard feelings, right? Because they were of the view that they did nothing wrong. And they are also happy that because they sustained themselves on donations by the Tablighi Jamaat and also by people who were not from the Tablighi Jamaat. So for them, it was a heartwarming experience that they found a lot of support from various supporters as well. And they're saying that they don't have any ill feelings. They believe that it must have been a misunderstanding and it has landed them here.
Anand says that the government will now have to decide if it wants to appeal against this verdict in the High Court. Meanwhile, the lawyers of the 36 foreign nationals have begun the process to get back the defendants' passports. They also have to ensure that the lookout circulars issued against their clients at Indian airports are lifted so that they can return home once their passports are returned. Given there are no other cases pending against them, all 36 can return to their home nations once they are cleared to leave. We also asked Anand about how the defendants had reacted to the end of the trial.
I was actually quite surprised that they were not angry with the fact that they were stranded in India for a long period of time. They also got to experience a lot of love from people who are not members of the Tabligh Jamaat because they were scared of the fact that they may be facing a sort of backlash. They did not. There were people who did understand them and who did contribute for their stay in India. They are also very happy with the fact that the lawyers who have defended them free of cost. And I spoke to this man called Irfan Khan. So he and his wife Fatima, they were facing trial in this case. And, he's from Australia. So he said something very interesting. He said that he happened to hear a judge in Australia who told him once that if you want the truth, you go to a masjid. But if you want justice, you come to a court. And he said that this inspired me to fight my case, and I did not take a plea bargain because I did not plead guilty because I am not guilty.
Before we get to the next segment, I just wanted your quick attention. One of the big reasons people say that they like this show is because it helps them understand the news better. It provides them with the context they need to see the bigger picture. And there's perhaps no other place that does this better than the Indian Express's Explained section. We on Three Things refer to the section regularly, and it helps us make this show. If you're a regular reader of the newspaper, you know how useful the Explained section can be, especially when you're looking for in-depth analysis by the right experts. You can log into indianexpress.com/explained and access their coverage 24/7. Explained by the Indian Express, where news that matters is explained by experts who know the subject. Now, back to the show.
जो 1 महीने पहले परमिशन डीएम साहब से लेनी पड़ेगी। कानून पढ़ा ना पढ़ा जो बनाए हो ये तुम जैसों के लिए।
A video captured what happened when Rashid Ali and his wife Pinky were confronted by a group of men while on their way to register their marriage in Uttar Pradesh's Moradabad. This took place nearly 2 weeks ago. The men in the clip are telling Pinky that she needs to get a district magistrate's permission to change her religion. They also say that this law has been passed for women like her. The law they're referring to is the Uttar Pradesh Prohibition of Unlawful Conversion of Religion Ordinance. It's a law that the state government says is against forced conversions. But it is also said to be against what Hindu groups term as love jihad. Rashid Ali and his brother Salim were arrested under the law despite them telling the police that the wedding had taken place months before the law was passed. They were produced before a magistrate and sent to jail. Pinky was taken to a shelter home. She was later taken to a hospital after she complained of illness. She was finally released after she was produced before a magistrate. The Indian Express's Jignasa Sinha, who met with her after she was released, joins us now to talk about the case. Jignasa, the couple were married in a religious ceremony months ago. Why did they decide to go back to Moradabad when they were detained?
They were married in July in Dehradun, where they met a year ago. But at the same time, the girl, Pinky, her mother and her sister, they came to Dehradun to meet her. They did not like, the wedding, and they beat her up. They called her names and they threatened to kill her. And that's when the girl filed a complaint at a police station, and they finally decided to move back to Moradabad to meet the boy's family.
And what was the reason for them to get the marriage registered given they'd been married months ago?
So the boy's parents, they were scared of the anti-conversion law and CAA, NRC. The family doesn't know much about these laws, and they were scared that, what if the police arrest them or the district officials take some action against them and, they are kicked out of their house. So they decided to go and get their marriage registered, meet a lawyer and, get all legal.
And you've spoken with the woman who was detained when she was going to register a wedding. What did she say about what happened on the day they were detained?
So on December 5, Pinky and her husband Rashid, along with brother-in-law Salim, they went to meet this lawyer, and he gave them the papers, their application papers and everything. And he told them to go to the SDM and get it all signed. So they were on their way to the office, SDM's office, when, these 10 to 15 men following them, and they stopped. And these men, they just started beating them and dragging them to the police station. Pinky told us that, she told the men that I'm pregnant, please don't beat me. And they said, no, you're lying. They are trying to convert you. And the woman kept on saying that I'm already married. They're not trying to convert me. But they dragged her to the police station and then called her mother and made her come from Bijnor to Moradabad to file a complaint against the boy. And that's what happened. The mother eventually came and filed a complaint against the boy and the family.
So what happened with Pinky after she was detained?
While Rashid and Salim were taken to the prison, Pinky was taken to a shelter home since she was pregnant. And there she told us that she started experiencing these severe stomach cramps, but nobody took her seriously. The caretakers and the constables called her names and they told her that you're a dramebaz, nothing is happening to you. It was only after she experienced heavy vaginal bleeding that she was shifted to a hospital. And even there, she alleged that she was given tablets and injections, which deteriorated her condition, and she was discharged after a day or two.
So, there were reports that Pinky was pregnant and might have even suffered a miscarriage after all that took place. What do we know about that so far?
So Pinky told us that she's 3 months pregnant, and when she was taken to the district hospital, like I said, she was bleeding heavily. That's why she was taken to the hospital. But at the hospital, the medicines and the injections didn't work for her. Her condition went bad, and I met her yesterday, and she told me that she's still been experiencing heavy bleeding, and it's been for 4 days. So now she thinks she has lost her baby, and doctors, and there were media reports saying that she has suffered a miscarriage, but the doctors and district officials called it fake news and everything. But on Tuesday, a senior medical officer told us that there was this ultrasound which could only spot the fetus. The doctors don't know for sure if its heart was beating or not. So they've referred the woman to another hospital at Meerut, and then they will conduct more tests to confirm the miscarriage.
So Pinky was detained for days in this shelter home, as you said, and was finally released after she appeared before a magistrate. What did she tell the magistrate that resulted in her release?
On Monday, she was taken to the magistrate, and there she told that she married Rashid in July, and that was in Dehradun. This was much before the anti-conversion law came in, and she signed the nikah papers on her own free will. Nobody forced her, and she does not want to be with her mother. Like the complainant, who was her mother, told that, we want our daughter back. But she told the police and the magistrate that I do not want to go back and live with them. I want to be with Rashid's family. And so the magistrate had to release her.
How has the police defended why the three people were detained if the couple were already married? And what has it said about Rashid and his brother still being in detention?
So we spoke to the senior superintendent of police, that is Prabhakar Chaudhary. He said that the police, they plainly acted on the mother's complaint, that was that their daughter was being forced to convert. And while we asked them that, the woman is saying that she has nikah papers and marriage papers, she doesn't have a seal. But the police is saying, no, we did not find any such papers with them. So we arrested them, and they took the woman to the shelter home and the men to the prison. And about the brothers, Rashid and Salim, they're saying that they're still under detention because now the case is with the court. They'll take legal opinion on this case, how to proceed and how to go, and they'll check the marriage papers, verify everything.
And what does Pinky have to say about this whole incident and what has happened with her so far?
Pinky and her family, like Rashid's family, they think that it was the lawyer who complained about them. They think that there were these 10 to 15 men who caught them and beat them are behind this whole thing. She doesn't think her mother wanted to file a complaint against her. It was these goons who compelled her mother to do so. And right now, she does not want to take action against anybody. She's just scared that she has lost her baby, and she just wants her husband back. She does not want to file a case against anybody. And she's been, repeating it again and again that it was on her own will that she married Rashid. It was not under influence, or she was not forced to do so. And this happened much before the law came in. So why are they being punished like this?
And is there anything known about those 10 to 15 people who took them to the police station and pretty much got all of this done? Has there been any action taken, or do we even know who they were?
We are not really sure about their identity. While Pinky and Rashid's family say that they are Bajrang Dal members, but then the police said no, there were no such people. It was us who went there and arrested them near the lawyer's office. I mean, the police is denying their presence, but Pinky is saying no, there were 10 to 15 men. Everybody saw them, and we think they are from Bajrang Dal, but we are also not very sure. And they are these local goons who were called by the lawyer, but the family is not sure. But the police has not taken any action against these men. The families complain about them, but the police is denying their presence, and they are saying no, we acted on the mother's complaint, and there's no third party in this case.
The Supreme Court acknowledged the right of farmers to hold non-violent protests and suggested that the centre put the implementation of the new farm laws on hold. It also put forward the idea of constituting an impartial and independent committee, which may include independent experts. However, the central government argued that farmers would not come forward for negotiations if the implementation of the farm laws was put on hold. The Supreme Court suggestions came while a 3-judge bench headed by Chief Justice of India S.A. Bobde was hearing a clutch of petitions seeking the removal of farmers protesting at the borders of Delhi. The bench said it would order for the serving of notices to the protesting farmer unions and would give them liberty to approach the vacation bench. The Supreme Court also said it would ask the central government about the manner in which the protest is going on and to slightly alter it so that the protest does not affect citizens' right to movement. For now, thousands of farmers continue to protest at Delhi's borders and have rejected all previous proposals suggested by the central government to end the protest. You were listening to The Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Arun George, and as always, was edited and mixed by our producer, Joshua Thomas. Before we go, here's another reminder to check out Indian Express's Explained page. You can log on to indianexpress.com/explained and find in-depth analysis by the right experts. It has everything you need to know to understand the news better and see the bigger picture. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.